Today, it's Edwin's Monday evening property rant. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics, one of the post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. It's Monday and St. Edwin is here. Hi, Edwin.
G'day, Martin. It's all things are happening now. Warning signs all around, and we've got UFOs coming to attend auctions. I'm told. I got it from a credible source. Dusty and Evan.
Yeah, you got to see it. You got to see it. Excellent.
Well, going with the whole backdrop of UFOs that you can see behind me. I captured some on the screen there.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, very good. Well, of course, you're ahead of the curve once again, because I think the US are going to release a whole bunch of stuff relating to UFO sightings over the last 40 years or so. So they've even got people looking into it seriously. So you never know.
Well, it's meant to be intelligent life. How intelligent can they be if they really want to take over the world? As it is with in the current state that we're in. I mean, auction rates are going through the roof, according to the doc and everybody else. Listing numbers are down, and it's just not crazy. I hope they've got a lot of cryptocurrency on their books in order to make these high price purchases.
Well, it's interesting. You're talking about intelligent life and auctions in the same sentence. That seems to me a bit of an oxymoron.
And some a bit more morons than others, I guess.
Yeah, very good. It's a bit crazy, isn't it? And the credit statistics which came out today from both the RBA and APRA confirmed that there was a significant spike in mortgage lending last month, right, in April. Not surprising. Of course, looser lending standards, low interest rates, and everybody piling in. That's why prices are going higher.
Well, it's interesting, but what are going to be the excuses as to when these projects don't start? There's over 100,000 homes that are projected to be built under the scheme, the proposed scheme by the government to keep the economy afloat, to keep the construction industry ticking along. But out of the 100,000, my question is, how many are actually going to start, given the fact that materials are scarce? We've got waffle pods now that are almost non-existent. But then again, is that a bad thing? I asked the question to our viewers: is that a bad thing? The waffle pods are almost non-existent, and we're going to have to actually go back to build homes on proper slabs.
Yes. And for those who don't understand, a waffle pod, I should say, is not like an iPod, right? It's essentially a volume-related chunk of foam that's used as part of the construction process because it's cheaper than concrete.
Yeah, polystyrene. Yeah, so it's as you said, mate. It's not a smart device. It's actually. There are stories of when these things were introduced, how people got killed, jacking up cars in the garages, and things had to change because the slabs just wouldn't sustain the weight of the car and the jack, and they just split open. Now we see a lot of issues around Schofields, around Pemulwuy. In some other areas such as Box Hill in Sydney, you've got Rouse Hill, all these low lane areas that are very high issues with regards to drainage, where you shouldn't be using these waffle pods, but they're being used readily and freely. And well, like I said, is it a bad thing that a lot of these materials aren't coming into the country anymore? For some it may be a bad thing, but for others, I'd say it's a welcome, it's a blessing. They're actually going to get a home that's built on a proper slab.
Yeah, well, there are good building practices and there are not good building practices. Unfortunately, we know there's quite a lot of rather poor practices at the moment. And we also know, of course, that some of those imported sheets have asbestos in them. Some of those other plastic constructions that are used as part of the building process are rather weak and a bit wobbly. So, maybe this is actually the renaissance of building as it should be. Who knows?
Yeah, that's right. And to top it off, we've got more issues with China. China sending us little warnings. Sorry about that movement. That was just Dusty wanting to make a cameo experience. It's I'm on not so solid ground at the moment, Martin. The studio is a construction zone, so things shake and move around as the cats move around the place.
So could be catastrophic.
Yeah, catastrophic, exactly. Yeah, so we've got catastrophic events coming up potentially with China. Right? I don't think as much as some of the Twitterers are going off on Twitter saying that China's going to attack. They might launch a few missiles towards us and that. Hey, folks, get a grip. Most of the Chinese nationals own a lot of the high-rise developments and apartments around the CBD, so don't worry. They're not going to bring those down, that's for sure.
Well, they might fall down on their own, but that's a different story.
Exactly, they might fall down on their own, but I don't think we're going to be attacked in that way. I think the real attack's coming by way of the shrinkage and the breakdown in the supply chains. When I say shrinkage, I think we're last cab off the rank when it comes to China providing and supplying our different industries with materials that are that we import from there. It's pretty much we are the last cab off the rank, and that's what the WeChat chatters have been telling me. So these supply chains are getting harder and harder to traverse. Not only that, Martin, but the actual goods in China are getting more expensive to manufacture. So the local Chinese are paying more for the goods there, let alone the ones that are going to be shipped out to us or any other part of the world. And on top of that, my understanding is that now I could be corrected on this, but the transportation costs, shipping costs have increased by as much as 300% from China going out, coming over to Australia. So if your fridge is on the blink, you better go out and buy one from, but not from Harvey Norman. Go buy from the good guys. Stay away from Harvey Norman.
Well, it's interesting that those construction problems are not just Australian problems, right? I was talking to someone in the UK the other day who's got exactly the same issues there with supply chain issues in the construction sector. They can't get the timber and the other materials. Prices are going through the roof. And in the US as well. Talking to somebody there too. So this is a global disruption. Now, of course, Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, is talking about temporary disruptions. This is just supply chain stuff that will get ironed out. But makes you wonder just whether it will get ironed out or whether we're going to see these more solid blocks in supply chains really coming through to impacting prices of things, availability, and finish dates. And, it's going to be interesting to see what builders do because, they're normally contracted to complete by X. Well, if they can't, it's going to be X plus whatever. Now, who's going to bear that cost?
Well, the consumer is going to bear that cost. It's if you don't have a fixed price contract, and not many builders will give you a fixed price contract when it comes to building. Yes, you can make a claim on any changes that you make along the way, but in terms of costs, if it's generally a fixed price contract, well then you agree on a price, which we got some of our clients into before when you and I were warning about what was to come, and some of our clients that are building granny flats on the properties that we helped them purchase or doing renovations to and extensions to their homes were able to secure these contracts, and now the builders that are assisting them have to wear the cost because it was a fixed price contract. So in some cases, we're talking 20 to 40% rise in material in cost of material. So this is going to get bigger before it shrinks and we come back to a normality, Martin. So is this going to last another 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? I'm one to think that providing that nothing else happens globally, this could be stretched out to 18 months. And then the other question is, when we talk about this, is who likes to go back to a reduction in price after increasing and hiking a price? Not many people. The government certainly doesn't when it increases the taxes. They don't like to go back on the amount of tax they collect from us. In many industries, when they have a price increase, you don't have a price reduction. and if you do, it's very nominal in comparison to what the materials cost. So I think this is going to stretch for another potentially 12 to 18 months, if nothing else major happens globally. And there's a lot of rumors. There are rumors of wars, rumors of all sorts of things happening and disruptions all around the world. Let alone with now the stories of the fact that some of these vaccines, whether it's the Pfizer, whether it's AstraZeneca, and any other, they're not working, or they're not as efficient as what a lot of people would deem them to be. So there's a big question mark on that, Martin, and that's why we're warning our clients as to, and guiding them through as to what they buy, and what they put, and what it is that they want to do to the property, short term, medium term, and long term.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The uncertainty levels, I think, are rising. A number of people actually have sent me articles over the last few days saying, some people who are experts in virology, I'm not, are suggesting that it's actually the vaccines themselves that are actually leading to more variations in the virus, because the virus tries to adapt. So it's a bit like you're chasing your own tail, right? The more people you vaccinate, the more different variations you create, and therefore you've got this continuous perpetual problem. So this may not be a simple one sweet wonder and everything's back to normal. This could go on for a long, long time. If it does, then all bets are off in terms of the full impact.
Well, that's right. I've heard those stories as well, and from credible sources, from very close friends that are being that are in that field, and they know what they're talking about, and it's they liken it to be when you give people penicillin, and the bugs just become super bugs and become stronger. So look, it is what it is. I'm just on my end. And those close to me we're just trying to stay safe, stay fit, stay healthy. I think if we build our immune system, that's one way. And likewise, when we go back to what's happening in regards to the economy, in regards to property, as with this is the Monday evening property rant. It's all about being looking further afield, looking further ahead, and looking outside of your neighbourhood and outside of what so-called professionals may otherwise tell you is going to happen. Do your own research, do your own investigating, and just be prepared. There's nothing wrong with preparing for the worst outcome, and if nothing major happens, well, so be it. You've got extra rolls of dunny paper in your shed.
Never have too many rolls of dunny paper. Now, look, one thing I want to talk to you about is this article in the Daily Mail, right? Which basically stood a few people up, because it basically said so-called cashed-up Chinese buyers are returning to buy, right? Now, I have to say, I can't see any evidence of that, but it got a lot of spread when it came out.
Yeah, and the WeChat chatterers were quickly on it, Martin, and they debunked this because they picked it up. The Chinese media obviously pushed it along. The mainstream pushed it along. That narrative that so-called Chinese, mainland Chinese buyers were coming over or sending the money over to buy of all places apartments in Melbourne, predominantly in Melbourne CBD. And with what you and I have discussed, and what the statistics that you put out, we know that that's BS. And not only that, but the most liked or reposted comments on that was just that. How the hell are the Chinese nationals getting money out of China, when in actual fact, although you can get 50,000 US out of China, take 50,000 US annually out of China, which isn't going to make a dent in the deposit by any means if you're buying an off-the-plan apartment in Sydney or in Melbourne. But now that's the government there are reducing that to 10,000 is the most that you can now take out of China. Now the mainstream haven't reported on that, but we will hear reports of that in weeks to come. The China, our WeChat chatterers over there in China are on the ball, and they keep us ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and also, there's a lot of focus in China on getting people in China to invest in China, right, rather than invest internationally. That's a fundamental shift, it seems to me.
Well, that's correct. The mainstream or the government itself is very pleased with the fact of what's happening with the cryptocurrencies outside of China, because they don't want the young people to invest in crypto. They want the young people to look at the Chinese stock market and invest in that. I mean, it's you could say, well, some would say one's just as bad or as good as the other in terms of but and there's a bit more certainty in crypto than there is in the Chinese stock market. But each to their own. But that's what they want. They want them to invest locally and keep the money in-house rather than going outside of China. And there's been a big push, and they've had a big push for a number of years now to bring monies that nationals have taken overseas, to bringing it back to China. There's the double tax system that they've put in place over a year ago. And that's to penalise anybody that bought property overseas and are making money overseas, or bought businesses overseas, because they get penalised, a double tax when those incomes go back to China. Not only that, but our own government is taking a fair slice of that. Those transactions as well. So they're getting hit all sorts of ways, and it encourages the Chinese nationals to take the money back. So it's a wait and see, and let's see what happens. But as to that article, it was debunked not only by your research, Martin, and what we've discussed, but also by our WeChat chatterers.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And the truth is somewhat. I was going to say the truth is out there, right? To go right back to our UFO themed start. But interestingly, another issue, of course, is with China is the iron ore situation, right? Because not only is the iron ore price off its highs, but now there are some further moves that look to me as though China could actually decouple iron ore purchases in Australia. In fact, there was a thing in Macro Business today making that point. And, bearing in mind what proportion of our economic success, in inverted commas at least, is to do with exporting iron to China, that's a big deal.
Martin, and again, it wasn't about 3 months ago that you and I discussed this very same topic, that China was preparing to decouple from buying its iron ore here in Australia, and they've kick-started the mines over in Africa, and it was just a wait and see, and back then I said it was only going to be a matter of months before they cranked those engines up over there and get the production happening. And so now Macro Business has picked it up and is reporting and is asking the question: will Aussie property crash when China cuts off iron ore? This whole thing of painting Australian property with one brush is just it doesn't fit the actual the right, or it's not the right word. It's not the right. How can I put it? It's not the right choice not the right question to ask, because I'm a believer that first of all, you and I have discussed how the two market highway, or the two markets have emerged, and how they become vastly different. One's on seemingly on supercharge moving forward, and the other one's in rocketing backwards, which is the apartment market. So we have to really ask the question, which market and in which parts, what areas are going to suffer. Obviously, mining towns are going to suffer, and also with far regional areas or tourist areas will suffer, because of they're going to be basically, I feel they're going to be left behind by our own governments. They're just going to be forgotten because our governments are going to try and save the main CBDs where they get most of the votes, whether it be no matter whatever political party they are, or the major parties' persuasion they are, and that's a sad thing that our brothers and sisters in the country will unfortunately suffer, because we will only move to regional areas because we can work from home, but we'll only go so far. We won't go into remote areas where a lot of these the smaller towns I think are going to be lost. They're going to be left behind. So we really have to identify what type of properties and in what areas. And going back to what type of properties, look, I think it's going to take a lot more to shake the housing market because there's just not enough good homes. And I premise this by saying good homes, well-built homes, established homes, and whereas apartments, sooner than later they're going to become so cheap that it's going to be enticing for first home buyers to go in and take them up at perhaps 40, 50%, 60% less than what some poor bastard paid for it 2 or 3 years ago. I can really see that happening. And some may say, oh, but there's not a lot of apartments on the market. But we know that the developers and property marketing companies have been drip feeding the industry, and it's only going to be a matter of time because of all the vacant apartments that are out there before they all come on market. So it's a timing issue. It's an identifying what type of property is going to have the problems. But again, just in that, my thoughts on that is that homes in general may plateau, and it'll take a lot more, and it'll take a lot more listings to come online to have a real effect on homes. And I'm just purely talking about Sydney and up to Newcastle and down to Wollongong. But apartments, another story.
Yeah, well, I agree. So there's two questions we've got to answer. The first is, which cat was it that climbed up the picture onto your shoulder and behind you, right, while you were talking? Obviously looking for the UFOs. And then the second question, which is exactly the one you've asked, was, split the markets out, houses, in other words, and apartments. The apartment market is still being wrecked pretty much wherever I look. And I know that there was an article in Domain today saying, you can find value suburbs in, maybe not. The other point I'd make, though, is if the iron ore thing really turns sour, WA is really going to be hit by it, right? Because WA is where a lot of the momentum has come from. And of course, the momentum in the markets have been quite strong there, partly because of the iron ore situation. So maybe those spikes in prices in WA will also turn turtle too. So again, folks, watch this, keep careful watch, but don't just get swept away with a top level headline about prices going up, prices going down, because that doesn't help anybody.
No, and look, Martin, there are a lot of dynamics that are at play when it comes to property, and as I tell my colleagues and our clients, and that is, you just can't you can't look at a market with blinkers on and believe in everything the media says and trust that everything the agents tell you. Now, look, I'm looking at how. At the moment, I'm looking at how this whole thing in Victoria with the lockdowns is unfolding, right? And I had a discussion with some friends on Friday, and we were talking about what could potentially happen. And this is my thoughts. Now, sooner than later, businesses get sick and tired of these lockdowns, opening, shutting down, opening, shutting down, opening, shutting down. Whatever your philosophy is, whatever you believe the vaccine does or don't do, whatever. That's not the point. The point is that there is a financial quantum that businesses are losing by opening and shutting down, and by the government's not putting clear delineated measures in place to protect businesses. So they're going to make a decision to move away from certain states and go into other states. Now, we've said in the past that a lot of people that were able to work from home, that a lot of retirees, a lot of people that could pack the bags and they were buying property in Queensland, sight unseen, crazy stuff that was being reported because it was, a lifestyle choice and it was relatively cheap. Now, I believe that a lot of these people now and a lot of these businesses are going to make a decision. Do I go and re-establish in Queensland, or do I go and establish in New South Wales? I want to think that they will stay in New South Wales because there's more certainty in New South Wales than there is in Queensland of of further unrest with pandemics and whatever. It's just, I'm looking at historical evidence, and I'm looking at who's been in charge and what they've done and what they haven't done, and how the general consensus, the general public business consensus. So and that's another reason why I feel that home dwellings, and that's a choice of lifestyle that people are making. Home dwellings, people that come up from Melbourne are going to start looking more favorably, business people that is, are going to start looking more favorably at home, actual homes with a bit of a piece of terra firma to allow the kids to run around, should there be any issues that arise here in Sydney and New South Wales. And that's why I'm looking at Martin. So there's a lot at play. Things are changing. It's a moving target, but you've got to take a lot of this information on board. And it's it's if you stop for too long, you get clobbered and you miss the boat.
Yeah, and certainly my surveys are showing that a lot of business, particularly smaller businesses, it's like a roller coaster, right? So they sort of try to reopen and then they get shut down again, and they try to reopen. But the trouble is that the force of down every time they have to shut is not sufficient to push them up the next upward part again. So that's the problem. So eventually they run out of steam, right? They run out of money, and they just can't go and get a bigger loan from the bank to see them through, right? Because they can't afford it.
No, and and we're talking about commercial loans. We're not talking about residential loans at 1.9%. We're talking about commercial loans. Yes, somewhat supported by the government, but that was the government support dried up, a while ago, and when they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to become COVID friendly, not to, you know what I mean, like to protect the patronage, and when you've got to cater for almost 50% of the less patronage, how do you make money? How do you make money when the pandemic wasn't present, or the virus wasn't around? You were struggling at full capacity, let alone to spend a shitload more money to refurbish your business, whether it be a restaurant, cafe, small business, takeaway, whatever, and predominantly in the hospitality arena, and now you've only got 50% or 60% the patronage because of the space regulations and everything else in relation to being COVID safe. Well, you've got issues, and there's only so much more equity that you can pull down from your home. And this is what I was saying, Martin, that a lot of agencies, predominantly in Sydney, they got saved, and that's one of the biggest of industry businesses that I'm very close to, of something like 8,500 offices in New South Wales. Were saved by the bell when COVID came, because they were already on the knees. Because as I kept on saying, as listings keep dropping, they're not making the commissions, and therefore they're not putting food on the table. So a lot of people think that real estate agents make a lot of money. Some do, but most don't, because the some that do, they're the ones that have the majority of the listings in that particular area. So all these things are at play, Martin, and it's interesting. It's sad to see a lot of people go through this pain and suffering, but they're going to make lifestyle changes, and I dare say that a lot of the Melbourneians, the businesses predominantly, are going to come to New South Wales, to Sydney.
Yeah, it's interesting. And of course, there's an article in the ABC talking about Tasmania, right? There, of course, listings volumes are way down, sales volumes are way down, and quite a few in the industry there are just leaving because they can't make it work anymore.
Well, that's right, and there are a number of things that happen when you've got a lot of competition for listings. Well, guess what? Commissions also come down. The average commissions were around Australia was 1.7% plus GST. Before they were, a few years back, they were 2%, and now they're 1.7. But guess what? I know agencies that are listing property at 0.5%. We're talking about the North Shore, the lower North Shore, in the eastern suburbs. Some agencies are back to putting listings on with and only taking or charging the clients the VPA, the vendor paid advertising, in order to get a signboard on a prominent street, so that they can potentially get other listings. That's what's happening. That's that's a reality, and that's what I'm referring to. If selling agents don't make commissions, and there's about 27,000 selling agents in New South Wales, of which about 14,000 are based in the Sydney region. So there are a lot of people that have got saved by COVID. Because there was the introduction of JobKeeper, so that saved a lot of selling agents, because then officers kept them on, because the government obviously assisted in paying for them to stay on, and the second thing now that's saved the agencies now that JobKeeper has gone, is the fact that they've got more equity in the homes, so now they're refinancing in order to pull down more of the equity from the home to keep the businesses afloat, or to keep themselves going, because the majority of selling agents are working on commission or under a contract scheme, and a lot of them are from the major agencies.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing that in my data too. So, I survey SMEs across the country, including those in the construction sector, in the real estate sector, and the real estate sector is definitely up against it, despite what people might think with all the so-called boom in house sales and house prices. It's not actually anything like that on the ground. And as you say, many people only got through because of JobKeeper. That's gone now. And so the writing's on the wall, I'm afraid. I'm not sure it's going to get any better ahead either.
Look, the banks will only allow businesses to draw down from the equity of the home for so long. I mean, how long that is, only they know, and only God knows. But one of the things that is interesting and is fascinating is to see how much when they pull down this equity, you'd think that a lot of these people would have a little bit more common sense and just keep what they have, rather than upgrading everything else along the way. I've been gobsmacked in the last couple of weeks. Some of my colleagues have upgraded cars and have upgraded the furniture and have upgraded the equipment in their offices for no reason other than the fact that they can. Thinking that not looking beyond the extra equity that they've now has now appeared in there on the ledger on the principal places of residence, but not realising that this gravy train is only going to run for so long.
Well, it's interesting again in the statistics that came out today. Business credit growth went backwards. Right. So, while some people are taking advantage of the government tax breaks to go buy stuff and, be able to write off immediately, it's not actually driving broader investment in the business sector. And I think that's going to be a very important bellwether for what's going to happen ahead. And talking of bellwethers, you actually mentioned, I think it was in the notes here, that there were some agents now seeing the throughput effectively of transactions easing a bit at auctions and impact settling post-auction, which is quite interesting.
Look, I've been on the phone today and talking to a number of agents and colleagues and that, and that's what they're telling me, that quite a number of the properties are being transacted post auction. Obviously, the mainstream picked that up as sale on the day, but the so-called frenzy is not really there anymore. That heat is not there, and it's not just a seasonal transition that normally happens. It's that whole frenzy seems to dissipated somewhat, and it's all wait and see. There's over 1,000 auctions listed once again for this Saturday, the upcoming Saturday, Martin. It's going to be interesting to see. Listing numbers for homes are down to about just over 6,000, I think 6,200 as of today, in the Sydney region under domain. But but interestingly, there's over 1,000 that are registered to be sold by way of auction on this upcoming Saturday. I myself and my team, we're getting a lot better responses by agents that are willing to entertain and talk about serious offers, formal offers that we make on behalf of our clients before auction, and we're approaching them, a week before or even 2 weeks before, and we're having some serious discussions. Whereas in the past, as many of our viewers found that agents just wouldn't entertain any offers prior, and what they would do is bring the auction forward anyway in order to corral all those interested parties and let the frenzy, let them meet each other on the day of frenzy. But things are changing. Again, it's a wait and watch and see what happens with these with the numbers and the sentiment. So we'll see. We'll keep on reporting as to what we see out there on the road.
Interestingly, something else that we'll just underscore: when you actually turn up to an auction at a property, right? That is a workplace environment.
That's correct. And an open housing inspection of any sort, auction, an open house for rental, an open house for a sale, or by appointment, whatever. The basically the property that's being shown becomes a workplace environment, and therefore you are protected, or you come under the cover of the agent's public liability insurance. And one of our followers of the FA reached out and was in a bit of a bother in Melbourne, and asked me a few questions with regards to what he could do. The nuts and bolts of it is that the agent invited him to inspect a home. They were in the process of buying a home that was not yet built, but they wanted to see how the builder was, what the quality of the building that the builders were building in the area, similar homes, and the agents invited them to inspect a home that was half built. So in that, they being I don't know where exactly what it is, they couldn't park on the street. I imagine it was one of those new subdivisions where there's a lot of construction work going on and you can hardly find a parking spot. But the agent invited them to park their car in the driveway of the home that was being built, Martin. So the temporary fence, there was a bit of wind, and the temporary fence fell on our viewers, on our followers' car, and obviously he had a claim. He was concerned. The agency was saying that he didn't have a claim, and I set him straight and told him who to talk to and how to approach it. And the last I heard was the agency offered him 50% of what he was claiming, but I said, look, stick to your guns, and I'm sure they'll pay up, because they certainly don't want to get audited.
No, well, it's a liability that's true and real, right? And we know that the indemnity insurance for the real estate sector is also significantly higher than it used to be. But folks, when you go to an auction, remember, if you're on the premises at auction and the agent's there, they have a liability for you. So watch out.
Yeah, and I'm gobsmacked. I should have sent you some of the videos that I'm sure I posted them on Twitter, and our viewers can chase them up on Twitter, or they can DM me for some of the videos that I've posted in the past with some of the homes that we've gone around and inspected for our clients, and in what property that we inspected about 2 months ago for a client. When we went to the backyard of this property, there was no back fence, and there was about a 20-foot drop from the backyard to the reserve in the rear, and although it was 15, 20-foot drop. I would have hated to have gone, anybody going down there, let alone all the families that were turning up with their kids, Martin. And on top of that, there was obviously some of the neighbours, the neighbourhood kids, or even the owners' kids of this property. At the bottom of this drop, they had all sorts of. They were obviously building cubby houses and all sorts of shit down there, and so it was appealing and enticing for some people to actually go down, and some people that attended the open inspection actually went down there to see it all. I mean, it wasn't part of the bloody house. It wasn't on on title of the house, but they made their way down there. It was, you see some of this crazy stuff at opens, and it's if anything happens, there's a big liability on the agent and the agency.
And talking of crazy stuff, how's your crypto wallet?
It's hemorrhaging, Martin. It's hemorrhaging. It's I was hoping for a bit of space dust to come and sprinkle over over myself, and I might get a bit of fortune. But at the moment, last week I think I was reporting 37% loss. I think I'm close to about 48 or 49% loss, Martin. But there's one thing about the Kryptonians. They've got a lot of hope and faith, and pray a lot. So there's a lot of hope, Martin. The wallet's hemorrhaging, but there's a lot of hope and faith.
Well, yes, they'll always argue that this is just temporary, and of course, when cryptos take over the world, then they'll be to the moon. So, we've got a bit of a spacey feel to the thing with UFOs and moons and whatever, right? So, who knows? But there we go. We'll ask you from time to time how your crypto extravaganza is going. But we should say, folks, Edwin is not in the situation where he's committed his life savings to crypto and is basically going to be destitute if it goes wrong, right?
But then again, Martin, the question is do you get involved with crypto, or do you buy an off-the-plan apartment in Sydney? Which one?
Well, which is the most risky, you mean? Yeah, well, that's exactly a really interesting question, given everything we know. It's
just one of those. It's just one of those things. It's I guess it's cheaper to find out with crypto.
That's true.
Put it all on black. Put it all on black in the casino, I think.
Well, the thing about, of course, that is that the transaction costs are much lower. It's more liquid. Whereas if you're actually getting yourself into property and you're committing to buy a property off the plan in a time frame that will be undetermined because of all the issues with resources, at a price which probably won't be what you thought it was at the time it's finished. And remember, folks, when you buy new, right, and the first day you take occupancy of a new property, your price typically drops, right? Just like a new car when you drive it out of the showroom. That's the other thing that people don't remember.
No, Martin, we look, particularly with apartments, I've always, and I've spoken about it for many years, for almost 2 decades. I mean, originally when we used to buy off the plan, we used to assist.
You needed to put another penny in the meter.
It's the see, I'm telling you, the flying overhead. That was a UFO that just flew over the mountains.
Yeah, just to explain to everybody, Edwin suddenly froze and then disappeared. So he's back.
Yeah, like you probably thought I was taken up, and by one of those beams. No, I wasn't. I was just. I
thought it might be there was suddenly a trading opportunity in your crypto wallet, and you had to go and see to it straight away, right?
OMG was going to go to the moon, so I had to go and put my buy order. As I was saying, Martin, it's when we were buying off the plan, before the government diluted the foreign investment review regulations, and all of a sudden, foreign investors were buying entire buildings, in 2015. At that time, pre that, we were getting genuine discounts from the developers to help them to fund the project. But when that happened, well, then all of a sudden, a lot of the people were paying, post-construction monies, and unfortunately, the people that bought off the plan from 2017 onwards are getting hammered right now because they're not valuing, and a lot of the people that would have bought off the plan, towards the end of 18, 19, when and they got told, oh yeah, these will value up. Well, guess what, folks? I think there's going to be a lot of carnage out there when it comes to valuation, because you cut the valuations, as you know, it's once will only be done or will only be accepted by the bank when the developer achieves the occupation certificate, and that's when it will get valued according to the price on the day. And from what I'm seeing in some of the areas as to established apartments that are dropping in price, and I'm seeing 5%, 6%, 10%, 12% in different areas drops in price in established apartments. Well, the new that haven't been completed are going to start following suit, and how far down they go, it's anybody's guess. It's only just a wait and see. And this is given the fact that not a lot of apartments are listed on the portals for sale.
Yeah, absolutely. And as with all of this stuff, the valuations that come back often are a little bit off where people thought they might be. I'm seeing it also with these pre-approved mortgages. In theory, when you actually come to do the deal, sometimes the valuation is lower and therefore you can't get the mortgage. That's still happening quite a lot. So again, another reason to be a little bit cautious and careful. And look, as we keep saying, Edwin, the property market is fraught with lots of risks, lots of issues. It's very important to go cautious, go careful, do your work, and basically don't back yourself into a corner where you've got to just hope that everything absolutely aligns right. Because if things don't quite align right, then you effectively end up with a rather, a difficult situation. A bit like buying cryptos, really.
You have to rub it in, don't you? Look, it'll change, man. It'll change. Have faith. Have faith.
Yeah, I'm having faith. Edwin, thanks for your time once again. Always great to catch up with you. We'll do it again next week. And I hope you keep warm in that rather chilly weather up on the hill.
Oh, look, it's getting used to it. But, you got to stay frosty. You got to stay frosty, Martin, especially when you go to auctions. Stay frosty, folks, and don't get carried away. Buy something with an upside, and more so than ever, be very, very careful and do your own due diligence when it comes to those building pest reports, because it's going to only get more expensive to do the rectification work moving forward with the way the current building industry is in at the moment.
Yeah, Edwin, great advice. Thank you once again. And we'll do it again next week. See ya.
Looking forward to it, Martin. See you next week.
Bye.